Greetings, citizens of the earth. I have come once again bringing with me the fruits of knowledge as well as some light entertainment in the form of some classic retro games. At the time of recording this video, I have had an extremely shitty week. A week which started off with me being the victim of the ever so present threat of crime in my third world shithole of South Africa. Forgive my vulgar tone, but it is quite honestly frustrating how crime is simply allowed to run rampant in our beautiful country when the government has the full capability to deal with it. But then again, all of our politicians are criminals too, so I guess it's simply a case of criminals protecting criminals. A part of me sometimes wonders if maybe the elites allow such things to happen as a sort of soft dictatorship. Why get the army, police or intelligence agencies to keep the population in check when you can just allow crime to keep them in check instead? South Africa, next time we riot, how about we target the homes of the politicians instead of each other? And you definitely did not hear that on this YouTube channel.
Let me tell you something. I'm from Buenos Aires and I say kill them all! Yeah! Oh yeah! Yeah! Oh yeah!
But anyway, with how bad crime is in my country, I think a very fitting video game showcase for this week's episode would be the Streets of Rage series, but mostly Streets of Rage 4, since that's the one I played most recently and I unfortunately do not have emulators to play the prequels. So the footage you see here was sourced off YouTube. I have credited each channel where I got this footage from in the description of this video. How I wish such video games could become reality, so that we could dish out some steel-tipped boot and knuckle-duster justice to all these criminal scumbags that roam our streets and the criminal elites that they work for.
Burn the heretic! Kill the mutants! Purge the unclean!
Streets of Rage, also titled Bare Knuckle in Japan, is a series of side-scrolling beat-em-up video games. It centers on the efforts of several ex-police vigilantes trying to rid the fictional American metropolis of Wood Oak City of a crime syndicate that has corrupted its local government, which keeps somehow coming back in one form or another in each installment of the franchise. The first 3 games in the franchise were developed and released by Sega for the Sega Genesis console in the early 1990s and have since been ported to and released on various platforms. The 4th entry, which was developed by Lizard Cube and God Crush Games, being finally published by the game publisher Dotemu in 2020 for PC, PS4, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch, and in my opinion is probably one of the best out of the entire franchise, but I'm willing to admit I'm being extremely biased because I really like the art style. But at the same time, Streets of Rage 2 is also up there with my favorite of the entire series, purely because the character of Skate is pretty awesome. The other thing to really like about literally all of the Streets of Rage games is the absolutely fire soundtrack, which was composed by the musical geniuses Yozu Koshiro and Motohiro Kawashima. Now, since we have firmly established the theme of crime in this video, let's get into today's topic, which also revolves around crime. But in this case, a crime that was tied to a very strange series of events that spun out of control because of one man's ego. A man that considered himself to be a martial arts master. A man who went by the name of Count Dante, and who actually had a pretty dapper sense of style. Well, at least for the late 60s and early 70s. Just look at his cool white man's afro. But despite being so stylish for his time, it turns out that not only was he a self-proclaimed martial arts expert, but also a bit of an asshole, and his massive god-tier level ego and narcissistic nature would lead to an event that journalists at the time called the Dojo Wars. But let's leave the dessert for later, since Mother Dearest always told me to finish all my food first, especially the vegetables, because apparently there were children starving in Africa, and somehow me eating all my dinner was going to save them.
Hey, we've been driving out here every day with your food for like the last, 30, 40 years. And we were driving out here today across the desert, and it occurred to us there wouldn't be world hunger if you people would live where the food is! You live in a desert! You live in a fucking desert!
So then, let's start off with painting a picture of the life of this Afro-having white man before he started to demand people refer to him as Count Dante. He was born as John Timothy Keehan to a middle-class Irish-American family in Chicago, the United States, in the year 1939. In his teenage years while attending Mount Carmel High School, he would slowly develop an interest in the martial arts by taking up boxing lessons at a local gym after school. After he graduated, he would go on to join the Marine Reserves and later the American Army, where he would further become exposed to the martial arts, only this time the more exotic, Eastern-centric styles, which for whatever reason gave Westerners a hard-on at the time. While in the army, he learned various military-grade hand-to-hand combat techniques along with Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. He trained under a handful of martial arts masters during the infancy of Western interest in Asian martial arts in the 1950s. Most notable of the early masters who had an impact on his life which he trained under was karate sensei Robert Trias, who was one of the early pioneers in bringing Eastern martial arts to the West, especially after being trained under Asian masters while being stationed in the Pacific during World War II. As for Johnny Boy Keehan, after gaining his black belt in karate, he went on to become a sensei himself. Now, at some point in the 1960s, Keehan started to become somewhat disillusioned with modern karate, mainly due to how much he and many others at the time felt that the way competition rules were set up really prevented the true combat potential of the martial arts to be displayed in its purest form, fearing that it would result in these highly effective hand-to-hand self-defense systems becoming watered down. Thus he promoted the idea of full contact sparring and combining various styles together. Note that this would predate both the ideas of Bruce Lee in his martial arts philosophy of Jeet Kune Do as well as the idea of MMA, with only Keehan himself being predated by Russian Sambo, Muay Thai, Brazilian Vale-Tudo, and the ideas of legendary karate master Mas Oyama, who created his own full-contact karate style in the 1950s called Kyokushin Karate. Link down below if you want to know more about him. Nevertheless though, Keehan would go on to serve as the Midwest Director of the United States Karate Association, or USKA, until 1962, after which he would leave that organization in 1964 to form his own so-called World Karate Federation. But it seems this idea never really took off. However, there does exist a World Karate Federation today, which was formed in the 1990s, but is unassociated with the one Keehan attempted to establish in the early 1960s. In Chicago, Keehan co-promoted America's first full-contact style martial arts tournament at the University of Chicago on July the 28th, 1963, and hosted many other such tournaments throughout the 1960s, pairing practitioners of different martial arts styles against each other, attempting to use these small-time tournaments as a method of promoting his new ideas about full-contact martial arts fighting. Now, while all this promotion of full-contact fighting and ideas about practicality, effectiveness, and mixing various martial arts styles together are all well and good, it was also in the mid to late 1960s where things started to get a little bit weird. As in the culty, shameless embellishment, con artist methods at self-promotion weird. As Keehan grew more and more disillusioned with conventional karate's focus on ceremony, tradition and protocol over what he felt to be combat effectiveness, he also began developing his own style that he would promote as street effective. As in, this shit was so good, it will totally help you block incoming knife attacks with your bare hands, dodge bullets, and help you develop your spidey senses so that you could see any attack coming from a mile away, as well as giving you superpowers that allow you to slap a dude on the wrist and cause him to collapse into either a state of instant death or unconsciousness.
One chance, people. Give me your best shot. Alright, that was pretty good. Okay, now watch this, everybody. Grab my arm. The other arm. My other arm. Okay, now watch this. I'm just gonna break the wrist and walk away. Break the wrist, walk away.
Jeez.
Okay.
Through these efforts, he developed a system that became known as the Dante system, or the Dance of Death, or even sometimes the Count Dante. Allegedly, according to him, by learning all of the steps of his Dance of Death, you would thereby become a highly skilled and extremely deadly martial arts master, or as Boyka would say,
I am the most complete fighter in the world.
In 1967, Keehan legally changed his name to Count Juan Rafael Dante, explaining the name change by stating that his parents fled Spain during the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s, changed their names to sound more Irish, and obscured their noble heritage in order to effectively hide in America from the Spanish anti-royal communist revolutionaries. It was at this point where he would start to style his hair into that ridiculous afro, also dyeing it darker, and by shaping his beard to make himself look like a 1960s or 1970s comic book villain. I bet he also had a cape. Perhaps he was a hardcore fan of either Sinestro, Doctor Strange, or Ra's al Ghul. He also started to claim that aside from being this deadly martial arts master, his day job involved him being a hairdresser for Playboy, which if true, explains his strange sense of style. Among his many claims regarding his alleged ultimate fighting style, the Count Dante, or the Dance of Death, he also claimed a shitload of other insanely tall tales, such as having allegedly participated in the Cuban Revolutionary War in the 1950s, where he served under Che Guevara and Fidel Castro, having beaten up Bruce Lee in a secret no-holds-barred martial arts match, challenged Muhammad Ali to a fight which he then claims Ali was too afraid to accept, said that he had already defeated and killed over 50 opponents in underground death matches in Asia, and that he had mastered the Demak technique, which is to supposedly attack the many vital points on the human body, and sometimes is also called the touch of death. Which I might make a video on in the future as well, but in a nutshell, it's basically this bullshit.
I'm not gonna hit.
Now explain what you're gonna do
You
again.
get triple warmer here, 17, and you touch go like.
Get him back, get him back. Bob. Man, that guy's really out.
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit. A bullshit.
Now, prior to his exploits in the late 60s and early to mid 70s, when he went completely f***ing insane, he was expelled from the USKA, or United States Karate Association, by Robert Trias. Now, according to Keehan, or Count Dante, this was because Trias was a racist who didn't want to accept any non-white students into their dojos. However, the USKA refuted these claims, stating to journalists at the time that 40% of their students were black, and that the real reason for the expulsion was because John Keehan became a bit of a troublemaker within the organization and refused to play by the rules, especially with his insistence on full contact fighting, which may have led to some students getting seriously injured. Regardless of this though, Keehan was now free to do as he wished, and after legally changing his name to Count Dante, coming up with all the wild claims I had stated earlier, and buying a pet lion which he would walk around Chicago with a chained leash as if it were a dog, he would go on to establish his own martial arts dojo and organization which he called the Black Dragon Fighting Society, along with his very own martial arts style, the previously mentioned Dance of Death.
Hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me. You can't. Reach me with that hand. Reach me with that hand. Reach me with that hand. You cannot.
Now, I'm not sure if this is still the case, since I haven't read any physical comic books in an extremely long time, with how everything is basically available digitally these days. But back in ancient times, even when I was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, comic books would contain a handful of single-page ads, which could range from new toys and action figures to new movie releases or video game promotions and so on. And this of course was also the case during Keehan's lifetime, especially in the 1960s and 1970s when he became Count Dante. So seeing a golden opportunity among the many disenfranchised and delinquent youth of that era, particularly those of predominantly Hispanic and black neighborhoods who were also all fans of comic books, Keehan would start paying publishing companies for ad space in the many popular comics of the day to promote his Black Dragon Fighting Society and his new, highly effective hand-to-hand combat style. Young comic book fans who had just finished reading their favorite DC or Marvel comics would be greeted with an A4 sized page on the inside of the back cover, with Count Dante's mean mug and funky afro pulling an intimidating karate pose with the words which read as follows.
Yes, this is the deadliest and most terrifying fighting art known to man, and without equal, its maiming, mutilating, disfiguring, paralyzing, and crippling techniques are known only by a few people in the world. An expert at Bim Mak could easily kill many judo, karate, kung fu, aikido, and kung fu experts at one time with only fingertip pressure, using his murderous poison hand weapons. Instructing you step by step through each move in this manual is none other than Count Dante, the deadliest man who ever lived.
After which anyone who was captivated by these comic book ads and interested and who ended up signing up would receive an instruction booklet titled World's Deadliest Fighting Secrets, which supposedly contained the basics of the Dance of Death combat system and a Black Dragon Fighting Society membership card. He may have been a con artist, but man did he know how to sell himself, because within months of him utilizing the strategy, the membership of his dojo and martial arts organization grew quite rapidly. But to his credit, seeing as it was the 1960s and the civil rights movement was in full swing in the United States and racism was the topic of the day, his openness and willingness to accept both black and Hispanic students also garnered him quite a positive reputation within Chicago, leading more people who weren't white to be more willing to sign up for his classes, since they most likely did face discrimination elsewhere. But as you will later come to find, there is a reason why history warns us against charismatic leaders who exploit the poor and downtrodden in society. But in my research for this video, going over the many articles and YouTube videos regarding this topic, it seems to me at least that the main reason Count Dante was so successful is because he shrouded himself in layers of mythology, mystery, and just downright absolute nonsense. Not to mention being quite the charismatic individual, according to people that associated with him. He also didn't seem to care about whether or not people believed him, so long as he got the publicity. After all, any publicity can be good publicity if one is able to harness it correctly. And even if most people thought he was a shit talker, there would always be those handful of suckers who would fall for the ruse on the right day. Just ask me, and how I allowed myself to get scammed in public earlier this week like a f***ing idiot, when on most days I'm able to see through the bullshit. Yeah, that was the crime incident I mentioned earlier, and I still feel like a dumbass to this day.
Are you stupid or something?
I'm as stupid as stupid does.
He built his persona on the preconceived biases and ignorance of his audience. Karate, like most Eastern-based martial arts at the time, was still regarded as quite mystical and exotic to most of the working class Americans and distant comic book readers he was targeting. People with imaginations to match his own and ordinary repetitive lives that led them to seek out something more exciting and different. And it was all thanks to these methods that he utilized that he started to become quite famous, even across the ocean all the way in Europe. Everything seemed to be going great until he let his ego grow almost as big or probably even bigger than his Caucasoid afro. In the 1970s, Dante started to get himself into quite a bit of trouble. He was an abusive and manipulative partner to his girlfriend, started to dabble in narcotics and alcohol, and also kicked off a series of rivalries with other martial arts schools in Chicago, which more often than not turned out violent and would be dubbed by the mainstream press as the Dojo Wars. One such incident in 1970 went so far down south that it resulted in someone's death and the total and utter destruction of his entire career and reputation. Nobody knows exactly how it all started or what was the actual cause, but it seems that Dante had some beef with another Chicago-based martial arts school called the Green Dragon Hall and decided to take some of his students and go teach those bastards a lesson, Kung Fu movie style.
San Kun Yun, your Eagle Claw has destroyed all the Snake Fist schools, killed 3,000 pupils. There's hardly any left.
Well now, our schools just cannot exist together. So my Eagle Claw is dedicated to wiping out the whole Snake Fist style.
Well, I am the master of the Snake Fist school, and I've come to fight.
But you know yourself that your Snake Fist style cannot possibly hope to beat me Eagle's Claw.
For the sake of all my ancestors, I have to fight you today.
Upon arriving at the school, an argument ensued which escalated into an all-out brawl that ended up involving weapons. In the end though, many of those involved, including Keehan or Dante himself, got seriously injured, and the entire shitstorm also resulted in the death of one of his students who was also his best friend, a fellow black belt and instructor under Dante named Jim Konsovich, who, according to reports, was stabbed with a freaking sword, slashed up multiple times, and finally impaled through his neck with a spear.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Now obviously all individuals involved were arrested by the police, and John Timothy Keehan, or Count Juan Rafael Dante, was said to appear in court for assault charges, and I'm assuming also manslaughter, since his actions resulted in someone else's death, but I couldn't find exact details on his court case, so take this with a grain of salt. However, what we do know is that he was represented by a pretty well-known Chicago-based lawyer at the time named Robert Cooley, who also worked for the American-based Italian Mafia, or as they're called in gangster movies, the Mob. Dante was ultimately acquitted of all charges related to the Dojo Wars and was allowed to re-enter society a free man, though as stated before, this entire incident ultimately destroyed his reputation and both his career as a hairstylist and martial arts instructor. Thus he was forced to close down his dojo and the Black Dragon Fighting Society organization that he had established as part of it. Since he was represented by a lawyer who worked for the mob in court, I would assume that he ended up probably owing them a favor, though there's no real evidence to prove this. Regardless though, out of desperation, since he was one more up away from ending up as a heroin-addicted hobo, he started to work for the Chicago-based Italian Mafia, first as a porn magazine dealer and a used car lot manager. But even with this new, still kinda shitty lease on life, he still managed to screw things up even further by pissing off his new ruthless criminal employer. And it is said that he apparently ran afoul of the mob quite a few times to the point of them sending him death threats. In 1974, according to the previously mentioned mob lawyer Robert Cooley, Count Dante was also involved in a high-profile robbery on an armored vehicle depot wherein around $4.3 million was stolen. he was once again arrested and put on trial. However, he would end up dying in his sleep shortly before the trial was concluded from internal bleeding caused by a severe stomach ulcer which was left untreated for far too long in 1975, thus etching his bizarre tale into urban legend within the American martial arts community. But he wouldn't be the only self-proclaimed martial arts expert who had allegedly traveled to the east and unlocked the secret jutsus and domain expansions of the many Asian fighting systems. Oh no! Count Dante's legend would result in far too many copycats who also shamelessly promoted themselves as having hands which are registered as lethal weapons after having watched one too many kung fu movies. Individuals like Frank Dukes, who was played by Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport, who allegedly took part in the Kumite, not sure if he meant the 100-man Kumite of Kyokushin Karate or another underground deathmatch fighting tournament. Steven Seagal,
Can I laugh in your face?
Really?
Yes.
George Dillman, and even entire cult-like movements such as the Yellow Bamboo Martial Arts Society, who can apparently scream at someone with their arms stretched out and cause them to collapse and start convulsing on the floor.
Breathe in, pull the energy in. Pull it down, and push the energy out the hand. Big breath. More power, more passion, more power. Big. Look into the hands. Good. Good.
If you're looking for peak entertainment, the internet is full of clips of fake martial arts masters from around the world who all claim to have supernatural powers and secret but deadly abilities, and a lot of them seem to either be overweight, extremely scrawny with absolutely no muscle mass whatsoever, or extremely eccentric. You could also just visit the Bullshido.net website if you're looking for a good laugh, because they basically made it their life's mission to expose martial arts frauds. And then there's the self-proclaimed ninja master and successor to Count Dante, who goes by the name of Ashida Kim, but whose real name is Radford Davies. You know what? I'll just let the clips speak for themselves. Oh, and apparently he also wrote a weird erotic novel as well titled The Amorous Adventures of Ashida Kim, where he allegedly is able to charm women with his secret ninja techniques. I'm totally not making this up.
Tongue punch is something that is very underrated, not used often enough. If you have a strong tongue like me, you can go right to the tongue punch. You might have to condition it. I don't know how much you actually use your tongue. But what you do is you flex your tongue and then you push it out. That's a tongue punch. Okay, so punching a soft target doesn't work on hard targets, only soft targets. So perhaps picking the eye and just, okay, punching the eye, causing blurred vision. You can do it to both eyes. Okay, that will cause rapid blinking.
Anyway, that's it for today's episode, folks. Just an extremely strange story I came across during my many internet deep dives while looking for new topics to cover on this channel. Have any of you ever heard about the infamous Count Dante, Or perhaps have you seen other examples of Bullshido and fake martial arts masters with impossible claims that border on blatant fantasy? Or maybe you even had to endure the unfortunate experience of attending a dojo run by such a narcissistic individual. If so, be sure to share these experiences in the comments down below, and maybe link to a few other videos that you might have found here on YouTube that expose these blatant martial arts frauds. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Use the Force, Luke. Let go, Luke.
来吧！拿去！哎！